Hey guys, welcome. Thank you for being here. Love it. Sorry, there was a little bit of a delay as I was looking at my screen, so you caught me looking at the
But is this live?
crazy. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I want to make sure that you are here watching. Hold on, I've got a technical question.
Hey guys, welcome. Thank you for being here. Love it.
They're telling me to mute it, so
Okay.
I get that a lot. Usually from you.
Mute it. Mute it, boy.
Mute it. Okay, sorry. Hey, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Hey, if you're the first, if this is your first visit, appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here. We do have weekly giveaways, so make sure you tag your friends. There's some housekeeping that we have that we want to talk about. Some people had issues with their internet because everybody's at home working and stuff. So what I'd like to do is make sure that you have the ability to reconnect. There's a big red reconnect button at the top of your screen. If you get frozen or whatever, just click the reconnect button. It'll immediately take you. It's not going to take you out and come back. It's just going to reconnect. Okay? So go ahead and do that. The other thing that I want to make sure of is that you know that we have weekly winners. Last week's winner on LinkedIn, Mark Gilker. Congratulations.
Yeah,
congratulations, Mark.
Awesome.
On Facebook, John Dion. Congratulations. Twitter, Kimberly Leisure. Must be French.
Yeah.
I like it. Way to go, Kimberly. Okay, so this week's winners will be announced on next week's show. So go tag your friends, go on. We are on Instagram.com at extract with a K _lab. And you'll see those on the screen later on. Twitter, Facebook, ExtraktLab, LinkedIn, and YouTube. YouTube has all of the previous Q&A sessions that we've done. So go there, look at that. We've got our live tour on that. We've got the whole Prezi presentation, which is CBD 101, everything. It's hot. So go there. And if you would, subscribe to YouTube. That would help us a lot. So please, that would be really good. Thank you. Let's see what else. Today, we're going to be talking about operational excellence.
Yes.
Okay.
One of my favorite topics.
Kind of unlike that first little intro when I had to mute and do some other things. So he must be more operational excellent than I am, right? Hey, I did. Okay, so I'm going to start out with a quick question before we jump into operational excellence.
Yeah.
One of the questions that came up is, Dr. John, why don't you wear a lab coat?
Okay, why don't I wear? Well, because I'm not a faker scientist. I mean, essentially, if you're on YouTube and you have to wear a lab coat, you know, you're kind of trying to. It's like compensating for not being a scientist.
Oh,
yeah. So I have my Dickies on here. I got my T-shirt on. I'm wearing the brand colors. I mean, that's what I'm all about. You know, I don't have to, try to.
You don't need that.
Yeah, I don't need to fake it. You know.
And I have to say, I have to say, you're a brilliant guy. I mean, yes, we're related. We're cousins, by the way. Some people think we're brothers. We're not. We're actually first cousins. I am the much older, better looking cousin.
No comment.
Yeah, I know. Thank you for not commenting, because that's death. Okay, so anyway, good answer. Okay, so operational excellence. Sorry, getting back to the word of the day. Operational excellence. Why don't you let us know what that's about? Tell us, what does that mean, and why are we talking about it?
Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay, guys. This is really simple. It's a key question. Where'd all my money go? Anybody who started a business, you have to manage your cash, right? If you have inventory, there's where all your cash is sitting there. It's either sitting in processed goods or what they call WIP. Or it's sitting on the shelf as finished goods, or it's sitting as raw biomass that hasn't been processed yet. So that's where all your money is or could be. And it's not in the bank. It's actually sitting in your facility unprocessed or in process or as finished goods. So what operational excellence tools allow you to do is to apply manufacturing science to your manufacturing operation and systematically and over time reduce the amount of inventory that you have in your facility. And I can tell you this will add major dollars to your bottom line. It'll improve your cash flow. Basically, it'll also improve the cash conversion cycle if you apply these techniques also to, for example, your supply chain. So, these are some of the things that we do, Randy, with our customers. If they buy our operational excellence package, or things like that, we'll help them value stream out their process. We'll help them understand, for example, what their cycle times are, what their takt time is, where to really schedule production. For example, you want to have production scheduled at a point where you have things like pull systems set up. Mm-hmm. So we're going to kind of talk about that, kind of unpack it, but it's all about the money. Show me the money. Where's all the money? Well, just go walk through someone's organization, like, wait, we can't figure out, where everything's going. It is your inventory. Now, I'll tell you a second reason why this really matters, and that's at the end of the year. When you have $1 million or $500,000, even $100,000 sitting in inventory in your shelves, that is an expense that you really aren't able to. It's not going to come off of it's on your balance sheet. It's not on your income statement. So that's a big deal. Right?
Oh yeah, big time.
Big deal, because you're getting taxed on the profit. Your bottom line. That's where you're paying taxes. But all your money's over on your balance sheet in inventory. This is a big problem.
It is a big problem.
Yeah, and so well-run organizations, going way back, a long time, have been using operational excellence tools to manage their businesses in the cash conversion cycle. And I'll tell you, just to give you an idea of what some of those tools are. You have value stream mapping is a huge tool. I'm a big proponent of that. I've seen it really work in some of the manufacturing operations I've been involved with. It's amazing, okay? There's this book called Learning to See, and we'll put that in the meeting notes underneath the YouTube video. Learning to See is basically it's a book that it's a very simple, kind of cartoonish almost book but it's very powerful because it really has all of those concepts that are really important for, first of all, creating your own value stream map, and then what does that mean in your operation. So I've learned from that Learning to See book, and I to give you an anecdote a little bit. We had one company that I was involved with very early on in my career. We did a kaizen event, mm-hmm. which is basically you take one process and you pound all of the inventory out of it, mm-hmm. and you put it into a single piece flow versus a set of batch flows. Okay, sure. It was unbelievable what you could do. I mean, basically all the inventory went away. A very small amount. There was very small amounts of inventory in the cell. I mean, before we had batch 1, batch 2, batch 3, inventory 1, inventory cash 2, inventory cash 3, money 1, money 2, money 3. Mm-hmm. Just by taking out all those inventory caches, making it a single piece flow, we basically took the cycle time down from the very beginning to the end. It was I don't remember the exact numbers. But it's way more efficient also. Way more efficient. So that's called single point kaizen, and you can also do like flow kaizen, and we'll talk more about these and together. And then there's also the lean supply chain. A lot of people, farmers, for example, they want to get paid on their materials like immediately. Okay, absolutely. So they say, okay, I want to sell my whole crop, and you're going to store it in your warehouse. Okay, well. At the end of the day, that's costing you a lot of money because it's just sitting there while you're processing. So, what's a better situation is if you say to your supplier, "Hey, look, what I need from you is I'll pay you. If you give me weekly shipments, we'll break it up. I'll pay your price or whatever that you have." But and instead of buying 1 million pounds, I'll buy 10 shipments of 100,000 pounds, mm-hmm. or 100,000 pounds. 10 shipments of 10,000 pounds. That way, you're reducing the amount of inventory in your process, and you're also reducing the amount of money that you have, and you're improving the cash flow right off the bat. So those are some of the things that we are basically open for topic here. Yeah, so
All
that's
right.
kind of an overview.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
And the whole kaizen approach and, being lean is Kanban as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, Kanban is used as another tool in your processing facility. So,
Okay.
for example, if you have two processes that you can't really put together, we basically, you have to put, it's kind of a FIFO lane in there, and that's what they call first in, first out lane.
Exactly.
And then a lot of times, like finished goods inventories will use Kanbans, and that basically is, okay, I have a finished good, I'm putting it on the shelf, and then the customer pulls one off, and that tells me, hey, it's time for me to make another one. So that's basically a shelf.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. I love this whole idea of operational excellence, and that from an operating perspective, and we've got a lot of questions. I can't see them right now because the screen up here is just a static screen. So we're going to get those questions. I know that they're coming in because I see them on a different screen here, but I don't know where we're at. So sorry, guys, if I'm not hitting your questions right away. We are also going to be doing talking about revenue. A lot of you are talking about revenue as it applies to operational excellence. Where are we? What do we need to do? How do we grow revenue? And what we're talking about with operational excellence is how do we run our organization cost effectively and
Right.
more efficiently,
Right.
more effectively. How do we get that out? So if you have questions about how you're running your organization or questions about how you're operating, that would be great. If you have questions about what you want to see from a revenue perspective or how you're operating your cost reduction, your revenue increases, throw those up. We'd love to see them. We need to see those questions. So I like that. Okay. As we're going through a couple more small housekeeping, if I may, as we're talking about operational excellence and looking for the questions. So that's the other thing that I'm waiting on. Okay, so just so you know, next week we're going to be talking about your hemp processing facility, right? That's what we're doing. Right. Okay, so we're talking a little bit about operational excellence today, which can be applied to just about anything. That's what we need. And then we can, so if you have questions coming in social, any place where you are, please send in your questions through Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, any place you are. Let's get those done. Love it. So we'd like to do that. Send those in. I like it. Okay, so going back to operational excellence.
Right.
All right. I'm a big fan. You're a big fan, and I love the idea. I haven't heard of learning to see.
Yeah.
And I called it up while you were talking. I called it up on Amazon to see where that was. And it's cool. It's a spiral-bound book, which are usually the best, which means it's a workbook.
It is a workbook, yeah.
One of the best books I ever bought was, it had a whole series of letters, and the name of this, and I think I got it probably 30 years ago, it was called Why SOBs Succeed and Nice Guys Fail in Small Business. that was the title. But it was an excellent book. And it was spiral bound, and it did very well. I think it's out of print right now, but it was a cool book. Anyway, learning to see. I'm anxious to look at that.
Yeah.
Lean supply chain, cool stuff. Who are you? Who out there? Who do you build for? Who do you process for? Who do you grow for? Who is it that's in your mind when you're running your business?
Right.
Because as you're, getting on operational excellence, you have to have in your mind where you're headed, right? What are you doing, and why are you doing it, and who are you doing it for? If you're doing something just to line your pockets and you're opportunistic about that, there are those elements that do that, but that's not sustainable.
Right.
That's not sustainable.
No.
I mean, you love this business.
I do.
And I mean, and it's obvious the way we are set up, and the way we've grown, and what you've put into this, the blood, sweat, and tears is amazing, and it comes out the other end, and that's why people are always coming to us for processing, tolling, equipment. We've got a lot of really good equipment,
right?
And we're changing. I mean, I just found out this week some of the things that are on the drawing board. I'm going, holy cow!
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's the industry changing.
Yeah, it is,
and it's more efficient.
Yeah.
So what I like about operational excellence and the whole thing that you're talking about with the lean design and learning to see is that every piece of equipment you're designing is geared to string together or immediately scale.
Yeah. Let me kind of fill that in. I mean, okay, let's when you process for hemp or you're processing for cannabis, you're going through a series of conversions. You're converting the biomass you're upgrading it into oils, whether that's winterized oil, crude oil, distillate oil, and then you're converting that into a formulation, and then from the formulation, you're converting it into pens or vapor pens, for example, or you're converting it into tinctures or whatever. So it's a value stream as you go along. There are value-added processes within that value stream, and then there are not so value-added. Actually, they're called non-value-added processes. Like, for example, I have to stop and do maintenance on my machine, so everything's shut down, and I have to do my maintenance on that machine. So that's a non-value-added process. A value-added process would be when I'm actually doing the conversions. Converting. So if I'm grinding up the biomass into smaller particle size, right? That's an actual value-added time. What you want to do is, if you want to know what your cycle time is, you want to add up all your non-value-added time plus your value-added time. But what you really want to do is eliminate the non-value-added time. And in order to do that, you got to go stop what you're doing, go out to the process, watch the operator, see what they're doing, write down all the steps that they're doing. Step 1, here's what I'm doing. Step 2, here's what I'm doing. Step 3, here's what I'm doing. Step 4, okay?
Sure.
And then you time it. And you take step 1, you time 1, you time 2, you time 3, you time 4. Okay, well, what are you doing now? Oh, well, what are you doing behind the grinder? Oh, there's something I'm wiggling back there. So what are you doing back there? Oh, well, I'm changing the filter. Oh, well, why do you need to change that filter? Oh, because it plugs up. Well, why does it plug up? Well, because we're getting too much sticks from our supplier, and it's producing powder, and it's not plugging up right. Oh, really? Okay, so do we have a specification on that, right? Oh, no, we don't have a specification, or we do, or it's accepted anyway. Things like that. So when you actually go down to the process and you look at each process in its own little microcosm, you're really able to understand exactly what's happening in there. And once you do that, you'll be able to see, oh, well, the operator is trying to fix their machine, and that's why that's why the cycle time, that's why there's a bunch of inventory buildup on the front end of it. So things like that.
Is that the same process that you use when we were talking about terpenes, for example?
Yeah.
We were finding that we weren't getting enough terpenes out further down the line, right? And now you're taking them out predominantly at decarb. Right. Okay. Is that the same kind of thing that you did where you found...
Well, that was kind of more of look, we wanted to preserve all the terpenes for downstream, and rather than fight the argument of whether or not they were being degraded during the process, it's just a very easy and convenient way to take the terpenes out ahead of time. So that's all that was.
Okay, so that's more of a...
That was just a part of a process that we put in place, and then these are really great terpenes. You're never going to get those type of terpenes out of any other process.
Okay, so that was just expediency of having additional elements.
Yeah,
okay,
that's all that was.
So from an operational excellence, I was going through and I saw a new feature on the E180-140, which is they can you plug it in and you push it.
Right. Okay. So that would be an example.
I don't know what that feature is called.
Oh, okay. It's just an automatic ejector, I guess.
Got it.
So it automatically removes the biomass material from the cylinder. So when we looked at our cycle time on that particular note, it'd be a good example of a process improvement, not necessarily an operational excellence tool.
Okay.
But what we did was we said, okay, well, here we looked at all the cycle time. Okay, you fill it, you run the material, and then you have to get the machine ready for the next go round. And we want one operator to run, like 5 or 6 machines. So, he's working. He's doing that same exact process again and again and again. We were just trying to figure out, okay, well, how can we eliminate one of the major areas of cycle time so that one operator could be twice as efficient? Well, we did that.
Got it.
Just by, taking a look at the machine, putting in some extra plumbing on it, and now it just ejects. It took out to take the raffinate out of the machine after it's been extracted. So it eliminates the cycle time, and the one operator can be, at least 40% more efficient. So that's a really great thing. But that's more of a process improvement.
Okay, so I know we've talked about product introduction.
Yeah.
We've talked about process improvement. We talked about operational improvements or operational excellence.
Right.
Can you do just a summary of the differences? I mean, we've given some examples of those. Mm-hmm. Because we're talking a lot about operational excellence. Can you just kind of give a quick summary of and another example of an operational point? I know you talked about the filter.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So let's just think about, let's think about the differences in, as you go through the process, okay, as you're starting from biomass, you're converting over to grinding,
sure.
Okay, and you're converting that in a value-added process, which is grinding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if your grinder, for example, is very highly, it's very efficient. So it's going to grind, you would basically grind everything,
sure.
And you'd have an operator there that'd be grinding everything. Then there'd be a big bottleneck after grinding because either extraction or decarboxylation is slower, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to buy that huge grinder that's going to be super fast and spend all that money to have a super fast, conveyor, grinder and everything when the other processes downstream are not even close to matching it.
Okay.
So what is important is that in a process that you're sizing the equipment so that you're reducing or minimizing the amount of inventory in between each process.
Okay.
And better yet, even eliminating the inventory altogether between each process.
And that's not just eliminating inventory, but eliminating time.
Time, yeah.
Because if you've got a bottleneck, the biggest cost is time.
Right.
Second is all of the inventory that's sitting there.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So there's those two things from a process perspective are there. So you want to properly size and make sure it's an integrated system.
Yes.
That will give you that efficiency.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And so that if you have a really fast cycle time, for one particular part of the process, you're going to have a huge inventory buildup. And so what you want to do is maybe concatenate processes together so that they have, so that all the different processes are balanced, okay?
Yep.
And of course, we help you do that, and that's what actually value stream mapping will help you do. They'll understand, okay, you'll map out where all the inventory is. It'll map out, where, what your cycle times are for every one of your processes, what the labor is, what the value-added labor is, and then it'll help you see, okay, well, look, here's my value stream, and I'm going to schedule my trigger point at which I start to produce. I'm going to schedule it at this particular process because everything after that is just a single piece flow.
Sure. Okay.
So,
and I love that. Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to pause for a moment. We've got another question coming up, and the questions are now starting to roll in. So please, in the chat, you can see where the questions are. Just pop in a question. We'd love to hear from you. We've got some questions here. Here's one. They've got a split contract. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. And he's for winterized crude. Okay, that's what he's want. Mm-hmm. He's anticipating having to dilute down the crude so that it's compliant. Okay, below the grade, depending on how high that is. Essentially, they have to do a formulation. So what is the most expedient way to do that? And would you require the grower to purchase the oil of their own choice for that dilution? Okay, because you have to dilute it with an isolate to get it down below the projected THC levels. That's what I'm assuming your question is.
Okay, I see what his question is. Okay, he's talking now about a split. Let me explain a little bit about what that is.
Sure.
Okay. A split is a contract between two individuals, and that is I have biomass and you have extraction equipment. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to give my valuable biomass to you, and you use your valuable equipment, processes, and procedures to convert that for us. And then we agree that the output is going to be split on some level. Usually the terms of the contract would involve, some sort of an idea as to, what the quality of the material was coming in. Like, for example, we're not going to, if you have, say you have 100 pounds and 50% of it sticks, I'm not going to spend my valuable time and money, running sticks and stems for people and then getting a little bit of crude out and splitting it with the guy. Sure. So usually with a split contract, you're going to want to have some sort of input specifications of what you would accept. Okay. But once you have that, we typically only do splits at crude level. So the crude comes out of the machine. We give the customer an idea about what they would expect to get out of that. It's just an estimate because things can change and there's variation in that biomass that you just got. Yeah. So I would say that on that particular side, from a contractual standpoint, it's most valuable and solves the most issues if you split at either the crude level or you even split at the biomass level. Okay, well, 50% of this is ours. We're just going to put that in a bag and not even do it. We'll do yours first, okay? And then you get everything that's out of it. So in terms of dilution, now, he also asked the second question about dilution. Yes. And that's a question of, if you are working with someone who has a high amount of THC or maybe a compliant amount of THC in their biomass, but as you extract it, it starts to concentrate. What you're trying to do then is to ship it to that person and still have the shipping be compliant with the 0.3%. Got it. Okay, yep. So oftentimes you need to dilute it down. Okay, and usually what you do is you can dilute it down with anything, really. I think you can dilute it down with an oil. You probably can dilute it down. We can dilute it down with ethanol because ethanol can be removed. And if you use ethanol in that case, I would definitely use food grade ethanol. Don't use the denatured ethanol, please. You're just going to be ruining your materials. The second thing you can do, and I don't know, we were kind of looking at this. I mean, even the solid, for example, like a solid that could be removed because you have a volume and you have this 0.3% by weight. So, if you have a solid that you can put in there, like marbles or steelies or whatever, that would be something that you could also attempt to try, I think. Okay. But I mean, at the end of the day, when you ship it to somebody, it's still in process because they're going to be doing something with it. So at least in the state of Wisconsin where we are housed, if we shipped it out to another processor, that would be considered to be still in process items, and you would ship it with all the paperwork. You would designate it as in process items because obviously the people who are getting the crude oil in or whatever, they're going to be further processing it. So that's what I would recommend. Excellent. Yeah.
Okay, I love that. That is really 2 questions in one. Yeah. 2 answers. Good. Love it. Tyler, hope that answered your question. There are a lot of different things that we can do with operations, with processes, and with how you're generating your revenue or doing these splits. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do that and grow your business. Right. Okay. So going back to operational excellence, what are the best, we talked a little bit about the tools and then we went into this. What is the best way to implement that and how does that affect my bottom line? Okay.
So, so the best way to implement it would be to basically, if you're the owner of a small company, you need to own it yourself. Yep. And what that means is that you get your operators together, you get them into a room, and you go walk the process, walk the line. And, all you got to do is buy the book, read the book, go walk the line, and do exactly what it says. and just go through the exercise, okay? And you'll see that it's going to start to produce dividends for you. And it'll also, at the very minimum, it's going to give you a very good picture as to what's going on in your operation. A lot of times, small business owners, they get really busy with everything that has to be done. And who has time for operational excellence? I mean, that's a real deal.
Oh, yeah. You bet.
But I'll tell you that that the operational excellence side of the equation is really where your profit comes from. I mean, you have your margin, obviously, but all of these different items are eating your margin away. And, the fact that you have inventory, strewn about the facility is also a real big issue.
Okay.
And, a lot of people go out of business because they can't afford the inventory that they have in their building. It absolutely is true. Yep. And then when you're on a growth trajectory, it starts to magnify.
Oh, yeah. It's the visible killer.
Yeah, it's the visible killer. Like, you can grow yourself right out of business easily. Oh, yeah. I mean, we almost grew ourselves right out of business if it wasn't. We almost did that. That almost happened to us. I mean, because of the inventory, because we were scaling up for inventory. We couldn't wait, for example, 24 weeks for materials to come into our facility. Sure. So we were pre-ordering, getting all of our inventory, building it all up. Our orders started coming in. And you have to have cash available to continue to build that inventory. Sure. Otherwise, it's not, and then it's not feasible. So it's something that you need to think about. You really need to plan it. I mean, all the bankers said that you can grow your way out of inventory, and then grow your way out of. You can just grow yourself out of business.
Yeah, because
it's almost like impossible to believe.
Because what happens is it's like getting too much water or too much oxygen, you're done. Okay, because it's there's too much there, and when you're working that operational and getting efficient, all of your capital now is in that inventory, and you can't run your business.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
And that's what will strangle your business. So you have to manage that all the way. And I like the way that you said you need to walk your business. You need to own it. You need to really look at it from the beginning to the end.
Right.
And where are you?
Right.
So that's
good. So if you're a small business owner, what I suggest you do is get your team together, get you all into one room. Like this Learning to See book, it's just an example. There are a lot of examples out on the web, but we purchased all of those. I mean, I must have a dozen copies of those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just give them out. And, go ahead, get into a room, and then just pick one process. All you got to do is one process. Do one process a week for 5-10 weeks, and you'll have it. Sure. You'll have a very good idea about what's going on in your business. So start with receiving. Sure. Start with your receiving process. That's where all kinds of sins are committed in receiving process.
And what I hear, so I'm going to translate this in my mind. When we're talking about operational excellence, the big thing that we need to do is really think about what are the systems that are there, who's doing them,
right,
and are they working?
Yeah.
And how do we make them better?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's all we're talking about.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
Okay. So
with an eye towards inventory reduction.
With an eye toward inventory reduction.
Yeah.
Okay. So because that streamlines it, that takes that cash out from the floor, sitting everywhere.
Right.
And you just do that. So a system and a process flow is part of operational excellence.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Good. I like that. I know that there's a lot of things that we do on the business side. We're talking about operations, but there's also the whole business side of things. And that is, how are you managing your business, and what are the objectives and key results that you're monitoring? What are the KPIs? What are the key performance indicators that you have? And you can do those things in every segment of the operation.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying is look at that and then walk through it, start documenting.
Right.
So once you document that, that's your system.
Right. And so let's talk about some of those KPIs, right?
Sure.
You might have, for example, a KPI of inventory turns. That would be something that you might you might really look at. It may not be perfect for your business unless you have, good financials with balance sheets being, printed out and closed every month. So maybe a different metric might be, just overall cycle time. If you continuously measure cycle time, that would be something that would be good. And you can do that with a piece of paper. Just have all of your operators write those down. It's less attractive than having a full system, that's up and running. That'll keep your KPIs. But I would suggest, don't wait for the perfect, because the perfect is enemy of the good. Okay?
Oh yeah.
I'll take a paper system, even if it's not the best, starting out. Right. There are automated systems, obviously, but start with what you have.
Absolutely.
Don't let anything stop you from driving excellence, because it's about the value of your business too, because you're basically helping the cash generation take place. That's going to your bottom line, and that's just it's helping you maintain and freeing up cash for growth.
Absolutely. So, and it's not as much as driving toward full-on excellence. It's more just getting better.
Yes.
Right?
Continuous improvement.
We've all heard of the book Good to Great, Jim Collins. Great. Good book. I love it. Great book. The question that is in there is, what is your big, hairy, audacious goal, right? The BHAG.
BHAG.
The BHAG. All right. And you can have that in your operational excellence platform, and that BHAG is reducing your inventory to X% or X level.
Right.
Or eliminating it in the flow.
Right.
Okay. When you're walking around, you see big piles of inventory. How do we get that down to 10% of that number?
Right.
Or start out with 50% and then move forward. So I like your idea of don't go for perfection, because perfection is unattainable.
Yeah.
And if it's unattainable, why try?
Yeah.
And that's what we do in our minds. Okay. So you want to strive for excellence. You're never going to hit perfection.
Right.
You want to get from good to great, but you can start with good enough.
Right.
You can start with good enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Okay. Who said this? I think it was Ben Franklin said this. No, not Ben Franklin. Type in the chat if you know. Oh, by the way, there's a poll. Please answer it. Are you using KPIs or OKRs? That would be great if you would. And it's evenly split right now. The 65% of success is just showing up.
Yeah, it's probably true.
It's just showing up.
Yeah, calling the meeting every week, saying, okay, let's talk about this particular process.
Or even more than that, actually doing it.
Right.
Doing something, not just having a meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, get up out of the chairs. Okay.
Yeah,
get up out of the chairs. We're going to go out back, and we're going to look at the process.
I'm going to call, 10 more customers today. I'm going to go look at that inventory, and I'm going to figure out why it's sitting there. What do I do to eliminate that process?
Yeah.
So showing up, just starting writing it down. What are your processes and systems? Perfect.
You wouldn't believe the things that I found by just getting up out of my chair and going and seeing what it is that was going on. I mean, there's all kinds of funny things. We had one situation with one company I was working with. They had one of the engineers called me up and said, hey, I have a problem with this tube that you guys have delivered. It looks like someone bited it off. That's what he said.
Bited it off.
Bited it off. He said, what are you talking about? Bited it off. I don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah, and he said, can you explain that? Yeah, he said, well, it looks like somebody bited it off. I'm like, I got to go see this. So literally, I went down and I said, can you show me how you make this? And I just, every step of the way, and then sure enough, came out with this little nail clippers. And this was a widget manufacturing.
I thought for sure you were going to say he just put it.
No, it was like a nail clippers. And they're clipping off the tube, and that was causing the tube to crimp.
Yeah.
And it would block all the flow. Oh. I'm like, somebody bited it off. It did look like somebody bited it off. And I'm like, oh, look at what I found.
It would have been funnier if you actually caught him doing that.
Is this yeah, that would have been better. Then you take this. That would have been good. But the only way you know about those things in your operation is if you go and see. And, you can't, You can't really leave it up to.
No, you've got to do it. And Tom Peters,
people.
way back when in the dark ages, talked about in search of excellence, right? It was management by walking around.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
MBWA, management by walking around. So you got to go out there and walk around and find the people who are biting shit off. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, kind of like that, I guess.
Or using a nail clippers. That's hilarious.
Then the other thing would be just, you just go there. Like I went through one of our processes recently, and we kind of just looked at, okay, here's where everything. Well, the tools that we needed to get the job done were in a different room, for example. Oh, you got to have a dedicated tool. It's got to be in the room, and you got to have a workstation for what you're doing, right? So, we had to, and then we had to go out and get the particular material that it was an MCT oil. Oh, well, that's in the other place over here. Yeah. Okay, and well, why can't it be right here? Well, we check it out of inventory. That's perfect. That's really great. Yeah. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Get it out.
But at the same time, where's your work order, for example, for this particular stuff? And sometimes there was work being done with no work order. Sometimes there was work being done that was over and above the work order, So those are the types of things that you find out why that is the case. And there was a reasonable explanation in every case, and it all went back to, what's my process?
Yeah.
What's my process?
Why am I doing this?
Right.
Exactly. Where am I headed? I start here, I go here. Why does this happen?
Right.
To interrupt the flow.
Right.
Okay. I think that's good. So we've talked a lot about operational excellence, process excellence, revenue. We've talked a lot about different things. So what I'd like to know is, what is your top concern right now? I'd like you to know, is it your top concern generating revenue? Is it reducing cost? Or is it operations?
Yeah.
They're all vital to your organization. There's a poll there. If you could just answer that would be great. Just pop in, give us your answer. I also wanted to talk about, we're throwing a lot of books around. We're going to have to put our library together. One of the books I like a lot is Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. Vern Harnish did a great job with this. And he talks about the fact that, the three basic decisions an executive team has is, do we have the right people? Are we doing the right things? And are we doing those things right? Okay? So you're always asking the question, do you have the right people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And you want them making good decisions or being present.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You want them there, right? Always. Are we doing the right things?
Right.
Okay. That's what we're talking about with operations and procedures and everything, systems.
Right.
Yes?
Right.
Okay. And then are we doing those things right?
That's go see.
Go see.
Go see.
Get off your ass.
Right.
Get out in the plant.
Right.
Figure out what's working and what isn't.
Right.
Write it down.
Right.
Okay. So listen to Dr. John.
The other thing that you really, for people who are just getting into I'm an investor now and I want to invest in a particular, operation. Okay. What are the things that really matter to me? Okay. Mm-hmm. If I have done that myself and spent a lot of money on operations. So, but here's the things that I typically look at. Okay, what is the lowest cost operation that I can put together?
Sure.
What are the key cost drivers that are hitting my income statement and hitting basically above the line is what they call that, above gross margin. So your fixed costs, your materials and labor, what are the things that are really driving those costs so that I'm generating the maximum gross margin possible? Okay. So I always want to, as someone who's invest in the lowest cost manufacturing methods and equipment and facilities that I can. Because that will produce a greater gross margin, which will produce a greater bottom line, which will produce a greater free cash flow, which will increase my net present value. And we had discussed this last week a little bit, but it's a really important thing because it drives the value of your business right from the beginning.
No question.
So for those people who are looking, from an investment standpoint, and they want to say, okay, well, I want to invest in one of these markets that are supposed to be growing by 67% compound annual growth rate over the next 3 years. Okay,
Sure.
and I want my money to work for me. And at the end of that, I want to be able to exit, or I want to be able to really, improve the situation. I want my money to grow and work for me, right?
Sure.
I mean, the things that you should be asking is, what is the lowest cost method of operation that I can put in place? Because, as prices go down and things like that, you want to be able to compete and maintain your gross margin.
Absolutely.
That's it.
And that's cost control, that's system control, that's getting control of your business.
Yep. And
Right?
starting out right.
Exactly.
You
And
know.
starting out right. Okay,
Right.
so you want to make sure that you have a system that's going to scale properly and that will eliminate ahead of the time those pockets of inventory.
Right.
Right, that you were talking about.
Yes. So if you set up your manufacturing facility to pre-assess and to worry all those points of inventory by getting the right people
like that you
working
wringed
for
your
you.
hands when you
Yeah,
said
yeah. then you're going to be making more money.
Well, that's
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Wringing your hands about worrying the things out is interesting. I like that.
I mean,
Good visual.
You really need to think this through from the standpoint of an investor. So you should be able to know, for example, what your costs are, cost to produce, and if you have people that you're working with that know, how to operate, they're going to be driving more cash flow.
Absolutely.
And they're going to be producing a greater net present value. No question about it.
No question.
And your company will go for more money when it gets consolidated or whatever, because your cash flow generation is 3-4 times that of a peer competitor.
Well, and that's a good point. I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna take a left turn here.
Yeah.
There were a couple of questions that had come up about the industry right now. There are a couple of hiccups in some of the big companies out there right now. And my question to you, Dr. John, is when some of these businesses are going out of business or filing bankruptcy or doing some things, is that because they're not driving enough revenue? Is that because they didn't have good operational excellence? Is that because they couldn't get the proper product in WIP?
Right.
Why do you think that is? I mean, I know
Yeah,
you're a research guy. I know that's
it's tough.
It's a tough question, but and we're not them. We're not there. So you can do it. But I can tell you that when I was in my early 20s, which was back in the Stone Age, I think, I was making revenue like crazy. What I didn't realize at the time was that I was losing 10 cents for every dollar I made. And I was losing money fast. The faster I made revenue, the more money I was losing.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was stupid. Okay.
Yeah.
So you look at those, and then I finally went back and got my business degree and studied in the MBA and learned what I didn't know, and that was kind of fun. But what I'm looking at is these large organizations are sitting out there, and there are big things. So my question to you, John, is, what do you think was the driving factor in this market? That's putting you on the spot, huh?
Yeah. Well, can you say all the above? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's almost all of the above. I mean, you have to have customers that are driving driving revenue. So the demand is definitely there for processing, for hemp processing. The demand is definitely there. I guess that a lot of people, maybe they'll start out. I had a kind of an interaction maybe about a month ago with someone who I asked him, I got the building and I'm producing all this oil and everything, and now what do I do with it? And I'm like, well, how many salespeople do you have? Well, I don't have any salespeople. Well, okay, you got scientists, okay. You got your building, you got all your scientific procedures, your GMP and everything is wonderful, but you don't have a salesperson. You need the science of sales.
Exactly.
Okay, so that if you don't have that, that's the first thing you need to get. You need to get a good sales guy. And I'm talking, if you're a small business, you don't want a corporate guy to be working for you. And I hate, not anything against corporate guys, but corporate sales guys, we don't want meeting attenders. We don't want to have people who are order takers. You got to have hunter gatherers. You got to have people who go out and kill. In other words, people who go out and, they're engaging the customer,
Absolutely.
rather than, sitting back and, answering the phone and saying hi. I mean, your business will go out of business with those types of people.
And it's engaging. I agree with you. I mean, and it's the same. There's no difference between operational excellence and selling excellence.
Yeah, that's a part of it.
That's true. And there's a really good book. You said The Science of Selling, and there is a great book called The Science of Selling by David Hofield, okay? And it's really good. And it goes through all those processes, okay? And the systems of selling and how you go and how do you find the right customers that are the perfect customers for you. That's what you want.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know earlier we talked a little bit about, that poll that had, is revenue, operations, and what was the third one? I don't even remember. Reducing costs. Okay. So a third of you talked about operations and 2/3 of you said generating revenue. Okay. So we want to spend some time on generating revenue. We can't do that today because we're running out of time.
Oh.
This went fast.
Oh, it's already.
So, but I think, we were going to be talking about hemp processing facility next week. Do you want to do that, or do you want to bump that and talk about generating revenue next week?
It doesn't matter to me. I mean, we have a whole list of topics here. By the way, if you guys have any topics that you'd like us to be talking about and answering questions on, be happy to do that. We have basically an hour dedicated a week just to sit around and talk about, issues that are coming up in your business. Where we will select user-based topics. If you have them, give them our way, and we'll try to do them justice. If we know something about them, we'll talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And don't forget to tag us, follow us, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Please get us, okay? Tag us, watch us, subscribe as you can. We've got great people doing this, so thank you for being here. Oh, and there's the giveaway. Don't forget, we had our winners this week. Go in, tag your friends. We've got winners. We got giveaways. They're really cool. Hey, Jared, what are we giving away?
We have tote bags, and we're going to be giving away a hoodie.
Hoodies.
A hoodie.
All right.
I love it. And it's got the ExtraktLab stuff on it. It's really cool. Tote bags and hoodies, and we've got hats. We got all kinds of stuff. So it's really cool. It's great swag. So get in there, apply, tag, get there. Jared does a great job. James, April, we got a great team.
Yeah, we do.
It's really fun. Okay. So anything housekeeping that I missed, April? I just interrupted her. She had no idea I was going to talk to her. That's actually kind of funny. Anything else that from a housekeeping perspective? She has no idea.
I think we're set.
I think I bounced her out. That was kind of fun, actually.
It was.
Oh, click on the links. In the notes section, we've got links all over to white papers, operational excellence, the links to the books that we've talked about.
Right.
We've got all of that. Ryan, good. Sales strategy for hemp oil and hemp products. That's actually a great topic.
Yeah.
I love that.
We did have one. We did top 5 success factors for CBD manufacturers. We have those. We should probably revisit that.
Oh.
We did a podcast on that, a couple months ago. So
I think that would be
something
good.
we can do.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And how do you find quality customers? Bob, great question.
Yeah.
Are these the customers we want? Customers to sell to our whole everything. Boom. Done. Just beat the bushes? Question? Yes, beat a lot of bushes. Go out there. There are people, you want to get that. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, well.
You're going to say something about that?
I'm just saying, if you hire the right salespeople, they will find business.
They do.
That's it. I mean, if you don't have sales coming in, you got the wrong salespeople. And I had this guy. His name was Mike McDonald. He told me the perfect thing. He just said, John, if you got the wrong salespeople, just don't wait.
Yep.
Don't wait.
Get them.
Yeah, there's going to be people who are.
I agree. So. Don't hire order takers. You don't want order takers. You want people who are listening, networking, engaging, asking lots and lots of questions. And unfortunately, those are the guys that are a pain in your ass because they don't leave you alone, right?
Yeah, no.
How do I do this deal? How do I make this deal happen? What do we do?
If they're not driving you crazy, they're just basically not doing their job.
And that is absolutely the truth. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about that. I love the idea of coming back to the other things. A question: how do they find the note section?
Oh, yeah, they can just go underneath.
April, anybody? How do they find the notes section? We'll publish it. So there is going to be a replay. There will be a note section. Sorry, I've got to ask these guys all the technical stuff, right?
Yeah, that's all right. Whatever. It happens.
They know what they're doing. We're just
having fun.
We're just having fun. This is good. Thank you so much for being here today. I so much appreciate it. I value your time. I value you being here. Tag your friends. Come next week. And so next week, did we decide we're going to do revenue?
Yeah, let's do revenue.
We're going to do revenue next week. We're going to blow it up. So blow it up. Bring your friends. We're going to talk about how to generate the right revenue for your business.
Yep.
We're going to knock it out of the park.
Okay, let's do it.
No holds barred, man. Boom.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.